What's up, everybody? Good morning. This is Glenn, Red Dog Motorsports, and on this week's video we're going to get started on a 1996 XJ Jeep Cherokee, also known as the XJs, whatever you want to call it. This one, red in color, it's in pretty good shape. It is a two-wheel drive, two-door model. Not actually a bad looking little vehicle. She's a little dirty, been sitting outside for a while. I want to say it hasn't ran in a couple of years, I think is what the owner told me. But we're going to be doing some engine work on it. Borrowing from another channel. We'll start back here in the trunk. See what kind of engine parts might be back here. Give us an idea of what problems we may have. Oh, well, I guess that would be the reason that she's not running. The engine's in the back, and this is not a mid-engine vehicle. I knew it was an engine swap. The motor's already out of it. We're doing a 350 swap into it. I'm just trying to be funny. But most of the parts should be here. We're going to pull them all out. We're going to line them up on the table. And then we're going to get started. I do know there is some Novak engine mounts in here. They're bolt-ins. We've got a 350 small block, old school. I'll have to pull the numbers, see what year it is. And then I think we have a turbo 350 two-wheel drive transmission. We're going to get them stabbed in, and then we're going to build a cross member and get it wired up, running, get exhaust on it, that kind of thing, get it plumbed in. Just to make sure that everything runs and works like it's supposed to. And then he's going to finish it up in terms of getting all the finished wiring and all that good stuff done. But let's get started on it. I'm going to put you guys down. I'm going to get it unloaded so that we can do an inventory, get the motor out, get it on the ground, and then we'll get going. All right, guys, I got everything out of the vehicle and set out here on the workbench. And we're going to go through it, and then what I don't need right away I'm going to put back in there. But I've basically got it broken into all the systems so we can walk through it real quick. So we've got the basics: water pump pulley. Actually, I think I got the wrong pulley in my hand. That should be the right one. But at any rate, and then we've got the gaskets, we've got the thermostat, gasket, some bolts. What I don't have, I don't need a fan. I take that back. I was gonna say I don't see a fan, but we don't need a fan. And then here's the gaskets to the motor. This one's gonna have electric fans. We'll get to that in a minute. We've got a carburetor. This is an Edelbrock, and it is a 1406. So this is a 4-barrel carb. It is the same one that is in the Jeepster Commando. You've seen, if you've watched that video, not many people liked it, but I did rebuild one a little bit earlier in the channel. We've got a pressure regulator. We got some fittings, some bracketry. This is a gauge. I'll have to look and see if it's on the motor. I haven't seen a fuel pump, so we got to work that out. Actually, I take that back. The XJ has a fuel pump. We got to get power to it, and it's in the tank, so we'll send it from the tank up. And then here, got a starter. Looks like we got bolts and gasket shims, that kind of thing. So good to go there. There's a gasket kit here for oil pan, stuff like that. I believe he's already done all that. Got a new shift cable. This is a miscellaneous bracket. We have some Novak bolt-in engine mounts. We're going to bolt these in. Per Novak, you can add some welds. We're going to actually do that. We'll get into detail on that one. And then we got the mounts that bolt to the side of the block. That all should actually make this go pretty easy. And then down here I've got torque converter bolts. I've got transmission to bell housing bolts. We've got a torque converter. Flywheel is on the motor. Down here we've got power steering brackets, power steering pulley, and power steering pump. So looking good so far. We've got a drive shaft. No idea if it's the right length. Probably going to have to cut that down, re-weld it. We've got some miscellaneous gauges. The one thing that I don't see is I have not seen an oil pressure sending unit, and we kind of need that. We've got some miscellaneous fluids, got some break-ins, filter, power steering fluid, that won't be enough, motor oil, and some coolant ready to use, also won't be enough. All right, so we're gonna need some more of that. And then here, I haven't broke them out yet, but we've got some block hugger headers and gaskets, bolts, as well as just some collectors. So good deal there. And then here we've got an old alternator bracket, bolts. So yeah, we should be looking pretty good. Got some lines. I got the negative cable, looks like a positive cable. And we'll walk on out here. We have a brand new aluminum radiator. Oh, it looks like there's actually some parts that got thrown in there too. Glad I looked. What do we have here? I'll have to look and see what we got in here. Maybe this is our... Set you guys down. If you want to just sit down for a moment, rest your feet. Well, this looks to be water or temperature sending unit, and that must be relay. So this is all the parts for the... Oh, I know what this is. This isn't a temperature. This is for turning the fans on. All right. Only one part missing so far. That's not bad. It's not on the motor. I know that. Sorry, trying to do too many things at once. So we got a nice radiator. I didn't even see what brand it is. Cooling and radiator specialist. Don't know them. And then we got just the turbo 350 as we showed before. I did forget. That's what I was supposed to do. I'll have to look this up. This number 3970010 it looks like. I'll have to look that one up. I'm guessing we're in the late 70s, if I remember correctly. And then we've got a turbo 350. This one is set up with the TV bracket. And it's pretty greasy. Hopefully it works. We'll do our best. But that's what we got so far. I've got the rig turned around. I just put it on my skates, flipped it around. It was easy. It's a really light vehicle. And then you can see back here we've got I'm heating the world this morning. Florida cold. You know, it's 50. But it's working good. Putting out enough heat. Throws a little heat underneath here. All right, back to this. All right, so I'm gonna remove the hood. I pressure washed it yesterday, so it's clean underneath. And then we'll start working on the motor mounts. And then we'll probably get the motor set in there just to take a look. We can see how well the headers fit, where the starter goes, all of that stuff. Once we know that's all good and the motor mounts are where they need to be, I'll weld them in, and then we'll look to start bolting everything together and get it sitting in place. And then we'll look and see what we need to do. That's the other thing we're missing. We don't have a transmission mount. So we'll have to figure that out too. So transmission mount and the oil pressure sending unit, and I don't believe we have a water temperature sending unit on here either. We do not. So those are a couple items we're missing, but we'll look into getting all of that, and then more fluids. All right, I'm gonna sign out. All right, so what I'm currently doing is just trying to trace some of these wires. I know if they're coming from the fuse relay box here, that they're likely going to be power going back to something, either feeding a power signal to a gauge or sensor or something like that, or they're going to go back to inside in power a gauge or something inside. So at this point, all I'm trying to do is trace back, you know, like this wire's cut. I didn't cut it. I don't know what it belongs to, but it runs back down here to the fuse box, relay box. So I'm just setting it off to the side. I'll bundle all these together, tie them off. That way we know where they're at. And then, so I've got some of these others too. This goes to this sensor. Not sure what it went to. It was a 4-prong weather pack. Probably a Delphi system or something like that. And really there's not much more I can do on it. I'll trace it back, and then we'll cut it back over here at that junction and pull it off, put it in there. That'll at least get it cleaned up, and then if I need to at some point go back and find them, we'll do so. Some of these go back to these junctions like this. Typically these are either going to be a power or ground junction, most of the time ground. Those are fairly easy to connect, disconnect. So we know wherever this sensor or wherever this connector connected to was probably a sensor. One was a ground, one would have been power, and then the other two would have went back to a control, something like that. So typically you can be pretty safe. I leave a little bit of space, cut it off. I'll trace this red and blue. We'll go back here. This is not the preferred method to do this. I would much prefer to have had the engine here, or at least have this everything marked. If you have the sensors marked, you know, MAF, intake air, any of those, you can then know what to cut out and what to leave. But when you just it's hacked up, it gets to be a little bit more difficult. But I'm not throwing them away either. Taking them, we'll put them in a box, and we'll save that box. And see, like, I'm a little concerned. These ones go down in here somewhere. I don't know if they go to lights or what. I know there's a connector over on the driver's side that goes up underneath there. Those might be lights. But it's a little concerning that these have been cut, because if they go to lights, we kind of need those. And then these are going to be engine. They went to, I would bet, spark and fuel. This should have been a fuel injected motor. So they can be removed. Here's a ground. You can see this goes back to this ground connector here. We've got one wire that was cut already. Looks like there's another, so there's two of them. Those are both grounds, so we know that we don't need those. But really, it would have been nice to take these back in a little bit further. I would believe these large red ones are going to be power. But all this should go to the transmission, which is inside. This goes to fan, as I said before. Not sure what these go to. Goes to the resistor block. So it might be related to the alternator. All right, we're going to keep these. Battery power we're going to keep. All of these I'm going to bundle up
I'll tape them off separately. We'll bundle them into this. Let's see, what do we have here? Got something. Oh, that goes underneath, so we're not going to mess with it. That should go to the fan. That's a vacuum line of some sort. I don't remember what it goes to. This can come out. That's going to go with that. Should have been a connector somewhere in here for that as well. This should be that one. I keep checking to see if I've got the one that goes here. I don't know. I don't think that's it. It sucks that nobody labeled these. But this one can be tucked up out of the way. See, there's a, I don't know where this one went either. But like somebody disconnected the washer sensor. I just don't know where it's at. I don't know what it looks like. It kind of sucks though, because it would be nice to, you know, to put the 350 in and have this kind of stuff work. There's no need for it to not work. But it's been disconnected at some point and gotten rid of. I have to sit down. It'd take a lot more time than what I quoted him to chase down. But who knows? Maybe he'll bring it back at some other point, and we'll do that. All right. So at this point, I think I can bundle everything up and zip tie it all up out of the way. We'll keep some of these grounds and stuff exposed because we are going to need to ground these. If they were grounded once before, we'll ground them again. They may go to lights or something on the inside. And then we'll get some tape out. We'll tape it all together so it's a little neater. I've got some new zip ties of this style to put back in that place. I won't finish luming it or do anything like that until we've got the motor in and running. But we're close. We're close enough now to get things wired up out of the way. All right, guys, as you saw, we got the wiring kind of fixed up and out of the way. And then I went and we got the motor mounts removed, and I got the new ones setting in here. I haven't tightened anything up yet. Just wanted to show you where we're at. The left side's real similar. The only difference with the left side from the passenger side is you have the track bar mount that needs to be remounted back up. That's kind of a pain, and that's why this strap is here. I hooked it to the body and I hooked it to the axle, and that just let me pull the body back over that way a little bit so that that bracket would line back up. It's kind of a pain alone. If you had somebody else, you probably wouldn't even need the strap. You could muscle it around with two people. It didn't take a lot of force. I just couldn't do it with two hands trying to operate bolts, align holes, and hold the bracket up. So I ended up using the jack underneath it with a piece of wood to push it up, the strap to pull it over. Then I was able to use an alignment tool and get the bolts put in it. So that can be released now. Otherwise, the system just bolts right up. It uses some existing holes from the factory. And then we've got some Novak supplied fasteners. We got to fasten all them down. Same thing on the driver's side. Novak talks about drilling and stuff, but these mounts don't match the instructions in terms of the vertical holes and all that stuff that they talk about drilling. So not too unusual when they're trying to fit, you know, a broad spectrum of vehicles, that the instructions aren't exact. This is pretty self-explanatory. Since there's no drilling and all the holes line up, you just got to put the right fasteners in them. So what's going to happen now, I'm going to bolt these down tight. It's getting to be about that 4 o'clock hour, time to go get my kid. So I'm going to do that tomorrow. Here, y'all quit staring at that. Look up here. Look at me. Yeah, eyes up here. Oops. Man, you guys got short all of a sudden. What the heck? How's that? That a little better? Okay. So tomorrow what we'll do is we're gonna work on bolting together the motor down here, and the transmission. We're gonna get all of it together. I need to get the torque converter filled with fluid, get it bolted up to the flex plate, transmission bolted to the motor. We've got to get all of the accessories bolted up, water pump, alternator, power steering. We got to get any of the, you know, the transducer for the oil pressure. Actually, it's not a transducer in this case. It's a direct feed on the oil pressure. That's why I couldn't find the transducer earlier. And the water pressure sensor. Got to get all of that put on the motor, the headers put on it. Then we're going to stab it in here, which is going to take a little bit. Won't be too horrible, but it should settle down in here. I'll have to use the jack and scoot the tail cone up. And once that's in, it should set right into these Novak brackets. And then it's a matter, we'll get right on. Oh crap, I gotta do something about the transmission mount. Now, that might be a sticking point, but we'll figure something out about what we're gonna do with the transmission mount. If we gotta order it, then we will. And while we're waiting on it, we'll finish up everything else. I'll have to order up some material to make the exhaust as well. It's gotta come down off of the headers, into a Y pipe, and then back into what will be the stock YJ location, or not YJ, XJ, sorry. And then we'll have to make some power steering lines. We'll figure those out, and battery. And then I got to get a keyed switch for keyed hot 12 volt constant for the DUI coil. We need a keyed switch to the starter. Power from the starter come from the battery. We got to get a excite wire for the alternator, and then we'll have to get power from the alternator back to the battery. And I'm sure there's a couple others that I'm not thinking of. But tomorrow we'll get into building all that. So sign out for now. Morning, guys. We're back out, as I said yesterday when I was closing up. We're gonna be putting the 350 together this morning, getting everything on it: water pump, alternator, power steering, all of that stuff lined out. I've also got to open it up. I want to make sure that we're top dead center on number 1 compression stroke, that the distributor is lined up appropriately to the number 1 cylinder, so that when we get it stabbed in there, we don't end up trying to fight with all of that later. Because I'll probably have to pull the distributor back out to prime the oiling system once it's in there, and we get ready to fire it up. Not sure how long this motor's been sitting since it was last ran. I do know the owner said that he did some valve work to it, so hopefully all of that's okay. But we'll get into that. I'll take a look. Looks like all the freeze plugs and stuff are okay. I don't see anything, any holes in them. And then, yeah, we'll have to get the transmission and everything on it. We'll stab it in. Hopefully we can get all that done today. But let's get going. Putting the water pump pulley on. I've got the water pump already installed. And as you saw, I just cleaned I scraped the gasket first. Used the fiber disc on the 2-inch to go ahead and get it a little bit. Let me raise you guys up. You guys are sitting really low today. You're slouching. Quit slouching. That a little better? Oh, look. You see my beautiful face. All right, but at any rate, and then I use just a fiber disc, real light pressure. Don't want to. Uh-oh, we got problems. Oh yeah, water pump's not gonna turn. All right, so our bolts are too long. I can stack washers. I'm gonna go see if I've got the right ones. Actually, these are the right ones, but they're meant to have a fan in there. The fan would give you a spacer to step out from here, because it would be on top of the pulley. The pulley lines up fine. So we either stack some washers, which, speaking of washers, did you know there's two different sides to them, and there's a right and a wrong way to install that on the side. One side, with the way it's punched through, has a sharp edge, and the other side has a rounded edge. I doubt I can show you in the video, but if you look at it on edge, you can see that. And depending on your application, depends on whether you want the sharp edge up against it or the rounded edge. The higher the vibration, or especially high frequency, you want a rounded edge. And if you're looking for grip, and you want something put into, it's not tension, compression, a compression fitting, where you're using that compression to hold something from moving, especially side to side, you want the sharp edge installed. All right, so decisions to be made. Either more washers. I don't have a fan for this that I can install, because you could conceivably try to put something on here that's round, a fan spacer, but it needs to be balanced, otherwise you're just going to wear out the bushing. So let me go look. Either I've got different bolts or probably just more washers. Washers would be easy. I'll fix that and we'll move on. All right, we've moved on to power steering pump. I like this system. It's got a little Woodruff key right here, and that just slots into the pulley. Slides on, then we got a lock and bolt. I like it. No messing around with the pulley installer. Those are always irritating. All right, now I just got to figure out how to install this. I got a couple of different brackets. So let's see here. All right, I had to put the power steering pump down. We've got a problem. I went to clean the bosses up. I thought this one just had mud dauber's nest in it, but that is a broke off bolt in there. This one's just dirty, so I'll chase its threads on that one and we'll get it cleaned up. That's not a huge deal there. I think that'll be fine. So what we're going to do here, I'm going to center punch it. We're going to drill it. Going to use a left-handed extractor, some heat, some penetrating oil, that kind of thing. See if we can't get that to walk back out. So let me go get the tools I need. We'll get started. Show you here real quick. Center punch, a tap, extractor, drill, heat. Oh, and then I got to get penetrating oil, which is over here on top of my workbox. But we can get started with what we got for right now. You guys will just look up here. All right. Hopefully this goes easy. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. Guess we're fixing to find out. All right. Now I'm using a good sized drill bit. I don't want to drill into the threads, but I also want it thin enough that when I put heat to it, and it cools and stuff, it'll contract away from it. It's got room to move away from the threads on the block. The other thing is we don't want to go too deep. I don't want to go through this thing and into the block. That would be bad. So, you know, this one only goes in like that far. Hopefully that one doesn't have a bolt in the bottom of it too. It may. I don't know. Huh. I hope not. Kind of looks like somebody broke one off in here too. Well, let's deal with one at a time. Well, that's good news and bad news. The good news is it just broke loose. Bad news is it didn't it went into the block. Of course. All right. Bigger extractor. All right, I'll try to use a bigger extractor on it and see if I can get it to just grab my hole and walk back out. I have to use it with the hammer and a wrench. It's such a pain not having somebody else here because there's so much dead space in my videos when I walk off to go get a tool. All right, hopefully this works. Figures it would move. Come on, what's up with my crescent wrench? It's jammed. I can't believe it's jammed. It's like somebody's been using it as a hammer. Who would do such a thing? All right. Once again, we're back. Laying on the ground. Can't tell if the bolt's moving or the extractor. Of course, I can't see in there. Hopefully, the bolt's threading back out. Yeah, we're getting close. I know you guys can't see it. I'm sorry. But if I can't see it, there's not much way to get you to see it. Yeah, maybe you can see it now. Probably not. It's coming though. Here, move over here and look from there. Ah. Can you see that? All right. We about got it. Hey, look, coolant behind there. We'll put that back in while I go get something to catch that with. All right. so, and this is definitely, it was a broken bolt. It was not a, what you call it, a plug. We just got to remember to put thread sealant on that, since it goes into a water jacket. All right, not having much luck. I don't have a sharp enough drill bit to get on it. I chased the threads on that one, and it goes, that one goes in about that far. This one only goes that far. That's not a lot of engagement for a bolt. Might be enough. I don't know. Gonna have to think on this one a little bit. Try something different. I think I am gonna try the heat and a flat screwdriver or something, just to see, you know, some tapping on it and see if it just won't catch it. Sometimes these aren't really in there that tight, and tapping on a little heat does the trick. Kind of like drilling that one. That was enough to get it loose. I'm gonna try a couple of things. I'll put it down and let you know. All right, we're gonna have to run with just running the bolt short. Unfortunately, I'm starting to think it might be a tap broke off in there. It's hard. I brand new drill bit, any of that, I can't even get it to start up drilling. So it's not like a grade 8 bolt or something. You know, you can drill a grade 8 bolt. I drill them all the time. But I can't drill taps. The tool steel, you typically can't drill it. You got to machine them out. So about the only way to fix this block for what we've got going on would be to take it all apart, take it to the machine shop, and then they would have to use a mill and mill that out, and then either drill that out to a bigger size and retap it, which this is 3/8/16, so they'd have to go to a 7/16/14. Or if they were able to get that drilled out or milled out, the center of that bolt, then they could put an extractor on it and get it out that way. We don't have that option. So there's enough thread there that I think we'll be all right. We'll run with it. It's about all we can do. Not too worried about the block or anything breaking. It's just the power steering pump. It's gonna have full thread engagement on the other one, as well as the upper mount. It should be okay. It's still got 3/8 of an inch engagement on that one. So that's where we're at. All right, guys. So now that we're past our bolt issue, where we have a decision made, let me show you where we're at. We've got, this is an ICT billet system for a power steering pump, which I already showed you earlier. And it just comes with 2 little L brackets, an adjuster bracket, a couple of short bolts. You got some 3/4, 3 of them, 1 inch, 1.25 inches, and then some, I think these are 3.5 or 3 and something like that. 2 tall spacers, a shorty, and a medium spacer. These 2 go together. Now we'll ignore the instructions because I already read them, and we're going to pretend like I know what I'm doing. All right, but this one goes on the front. I'll show you. Let's set it here. Where's my... So it goes like this. No spacers. I'm going to use a little bit of blue Loctite on it. No need to use red. Power steering pump goes out. You want to be able to take it apart. I didn't really read the instructions. I looked at the pictures. That's mostly because that's all I'm really qualified to do. Here's my impact. All right, that goes there. Now we already removed the stud, bolt and stud that goes there. We take this short one. We take the 1 inch. little bit of the Loctite. All right, I'm just finger tightening it. We'll roll it to the other side. Let's see, line this up, a little bit of the Loctite. This goes on the front bottom hole. Hopefully y'all can still see that. All right, I'm leaving it a little loose until I get these installed. And this is just going to help me get everything lined up where it needs to be. All right, now these two, remember this bottom one's the one that's got to go into the bottom jacket. It could get blue Loctite. It doesn't go into the water jacket anymore because it's blocked on the backside. If we got too much thread, I'll put a washer or lock washer on the front. This one needs thread sealant. Thread sealant because it's going into a water jacket. So I like just the paste rather than, I'm not a real big fan of the tape. I mean, there's a place for the tape, but for stuff like this on the engine, don't use the threaded tape, the Teflon tape. Use Teflon seal like this. All right, let me readjust you real quick. I'm gonna look up here. All right, as I put my leg in the way. All right, that holds that in place. Gotta wiggle it around a little bit. Gotta pull it out. Now, if this bottom one, like I said, if it doesn't fit, then we're just going to put all right, so we're definitely going to need to put something underneath this or cut it down, one of the two. Okay, so I've got a couple of options here. I grabbed some thick ones and a lock washer. So put a little bit of thread locker on that. Just a 9/16. All right, so that goes there, and then we take this little spacer and this bolt. It slides up in between the water pump and the pulley for the adjustment. All right, this one I'm just going to tighten it down temporarily. We'll finish tightening it once we get the belt on it and get it adjusted. I don't have the belts. All right, woodruff key's still in place. Line up that. take the impact gun, I'll hold this, and we'll run that down. Well, maybe we'll use a wrench. I don't like using an impact on something like the shafts, if I can help it. And it looks like it lines up even. It's a little off. Looks like it needs a spacer behind this. All right, let me read up on that, see what they say about that pulley. All right, guys, so I didn't tighten this down because the belt's not lining up. So I wanted to measure this. All right, before we're right at a 1/2 inch. And if I bring this forward to line up with the belt spacing, and all I'm trying to do is use my square. Here, back up a little bit, please. Is to just sit my square down into the groove. And basically that helps me just get it aligned. It's close enough. I mean, it's not going to be perfect, but it's much closer than if I use my old micrometers, as they say in certain circles, until you push on it. I'm trying. All right, that's better. I like that. All right. So, looks like it's right about in there. That's a 1/4 inch off. Now, problem is I can't space out the pulley because then the nut's not going to work right. So I need to put that on, and then I need to put 1/4 inch spacers up against the block to step this whole thing out. Gonna have to ask the question. But everything's going to get wider. There'll be 1/4 inch spacers behind at the block, and then this spacer here in between the water pump and the adjustment bracket will also be a 1/4 inch longer. So if this is a 1/2 inch, it'll be 3/4. Might need a longer bolt here, maybe this upper one too. Might call ICT real quick and just see what they say. But this doesn't sit back any further. Remember, we had problems with the bolts contacting here, so it's not like that's going to step back any. And this and the crank line up, so this needs to line up with the crank. Let me go talk to him. Where that left off, I don't know. Darn it. But anyway, all right, so we just put on the water neck and the new, man, I cannot think and speak today at the same time. Water neck and thermostat were just installed. Now I got it. ICT Billet did call back. We're going to space that out a 1/4 inch. They said that won't be an issue. So I'll cut new spacers. I got some stock material over there that'll work just fine. We'll
put longer bolts where needed. No big deal. Shouldn't take that long. Then I got to pick the motor up. We got to do the oil pan gasket, and I need to put in the lug and whatnot, the sensors for oil pressure and water temperature. We can do the headers after that, bolt up the transmission with the torque converter, all of that good stuff. Then we can stab it in. May not get to that. I'm running out of time. I'm down to 2 hours maybe before I gotta leave. And I need to order belts. We can probably just go to the parts store to get those. So moving on. All right, guys, I didn't want to do it because they're such a pain in the butt, but it needed to be done. And that was taking the oil pan off. So I've got it off. Kind of glad I did take it off now. Look at the sludge in there. Shouldn't be sludgy like that. That's not good. Oh yeah. So we're gonna scrape all that out. I'm gonna clean the exterior of it and the interior of it, and then we'll get it glued back on. But that's what we're up to now. I was gonna do it last night, but I was running out of time, and I didn't want to leave it sitting open overnight. So we're doing it this morning. All right, guys. So spent a little time cleaning. I got the engine oil pan all cleaned up. Gonna go ahead and take a heat gun and remove any water because I need to get it installed. And then we'll clean the block off, all of its mating surfaces, and get it glued back up. And then while I was at it, I went ahead and cleaned the cross member and the transmission. Now I just did the transmission by hand. It's unknown condition. I don't want to risk getting water in it by pressure washing it. Lord only knows if any of the seals or, you know, the pressure washer could push water in there, that kind of thing. We ended up in the fluid. So I just did it by hand. Takes a little more time. It's not real fun. And then to clean them, I just used Propel Power, Simple Green, that kind of thing, an engine degreaser. I do go and get hot water from the tub. I use a 5-gallon bucket, and then I put it into the bottom of a plastic 50-gallon drum that I got. And makes cleaning a lot easier when you're doing it by hand, not using the old pressure washer. But safety first when it comes to an unknown transmission. Want to give it every chance of surviving that we can. All right, so let me get this dried out. Looks a lot better. It's looking nice. So we'll get it dried up, get it installed. All right, we're good to go. Got the oil pan on. I didn't film any of it. I was underneath the motor, beside the motor. Shouldn't really be underneath it. And but I got good squish. Where I do this, this had the cork gaskets, 2-piece or 3-piece. I'm sorry, 4 pieces actually. 2 cork and 2 rubber for the ends. I use weather adhesive, weather seal adhesive, like a contact cement. Put it on both sides, let it dry, stick them up there. It holds real well. And then on the oil pan itself, I like to use Permatex. It's a little more solid, but it seals up a little bit better. And then on the Chevy 350s, you put in the 4 corner bolts, which are 1/2 inch, and then you put in the rest of them. Make sure you put in a little bit of the black RTV at each one of the corners where the rubber and the cork gaskets meet, and she seals right up. And then let it sit. That's the other thing, you gotta let it sit. Sorry, let me down here. But you can see in here, just a nice little bit of squish. Don't over tighten them. You over tighten them, you're guaranteed to leak with the cork gasket. And then in here, I don't know if you can see that, but we got a nice seal. Whoops. Helps if I show you what I'm looking at. All right. So that's good to go. It ain't pretty, but now we can go ahead and let's see, what do we got to do? We need to put headers on it, fill the torque converter with some fluid, bolt it up, or put it on the transmission, bolt the transmission up, then bolt the torque converter to it, and then we'll be ready to stab this. All right, guys, getting ready to install the converter. First, going to put in about 1 quart of fluid.
I like to use casserole where possible. Oops, of course I'm making a mess. That would also be normal for me. But we'll get a quart of fluid in here. Then we'll get it stabbed onto the transmission. Double click. You got to get the first thunk in there. Spin it until these tabs line up with the drive on the pump. Get that double clunk. Then we'll grease up in here. Then we'll be able to get it mated to this. Bolts on the outside. And then get the 3 torque converter bolts after we make sure it spins freely and that we don't have too much back and forth play. It's supposed to be between a 1/16 and 5/16 for this transmission and this torque converter. So that's where we're at.
Was a modern-day gypsy when she stumbled into town. She had some tricks up her sleeve, and she took my heart and disappeared. She went up that mountain just like I feared. Come on down from Shaker Mountain, shake for me one more time. Won't you come on down from Shaker Mountain, shake right by my side. Alright, alright. Now my daddy told me in earnest not to go up that trail. He said I should be nervous, that I might come back a different man. Not at all, not at all. Come on down from Shaker Mountain, shake for me one more time. Won't you come on down from Shaker Mountain, shake right by my side. Alright, alright. And I tried to call you in the night, just to see if my voice could reach those peaks.
Alright, things are sucking a little bit right now. The instructions for the motor mount said that you could put this in there with the headers on. But I don't see how. I'm hitting everywhere. Distributor, transfer case, transmission, headers, both sides. So I'm gonna take this one out, see if I can get it. If not, then that other one's gonna come out. And of course, it's about time for me to head out and go get my boy. All right. There's that one. Oh, great. Now there goes my tape and my motor mount. I need these. It's easy, they said. All right, let's see if that's going to give me anything. And the answer to that is no. All right, where's my ratchet?
And down to the river.
All right, let me look into this. I think I know what the problem is. All right. We're back out in the shop. I've been at it most of the day, a good 4 or 5 hours, whatever. And when I left you, I said that I thought I knew what the problem was because we weren't lined up with the motor mounts, transmission heads, everything. Distributor was hitting the back of the firewall or front of the firewall. And well, I thought maybe I had installed the motor mounts incorrectly, that maybe they were supposed to be bolt holes forward, even though there really wasn't any. I went back, I read all the instructions, and no, the motor mounts are installed correctly. So I tried a couple other things this morning. I removed all of the headers, I removed all of the motor mounts, tried to slide the motor in down lower and back further, and the closest I could get it was within about 1.5 inches of mounting up. And it really just, the more I thought about it, that just had to be wrong. Just no way that was right. So I ended up calling Novak and took some pictures, sent them over to them, and they verified that these are the wrong ones for this application. So they're sending the owner the right ones. The owner will get them to me. That'll probably be next week. That being said, motor bay is now empty. And I've got the motor sitting out here, transmission. While I got it apart or sitting out, I decided to double check that the distributor and all of that is lined up correctly. And I'm glad I did, because it is not. Right now, we're at top dead center on number 1. Both of these are loose, we're in compression. And this right here should be pointed that direction. Should be able to look down this, and it should point to the number 1 cylinder. That's the way it's been set up for Chevy small blocks forever. So not a big deal. What I need to do is pull this out. We will turn the drive on the oil pump to line up there, drop this back into place, the distributor, and then we'll have that lined up. So let me get that done and we'll get you going. All right, now this distributor's missing the hold down. I've got one ordered, but we just take this out. I made myself a priming tool years ago, just a piece of stock that I can chuck in a drill. I sloppily cut the end into a driver. It wobbles a little bit, but it works. It'll get oil pressure up into the valves. Which really probably ought to do now. But I'll turn that. We'll get it aligned with number 1. Like so. Got this aligned. Need to set it back just a little bit more. You remember these got that curve to it. So you come out basically to number 3. And then when you set it in, it'll fall into place. Number 1. That's not quite far enough. We're headed up over here. That would put it pretty far advanced. I'll turn it just a tad more. I meant retarded. It wouldn't have been advanced, it would have been retarded. Well, it's still not enough. What the heck? Part of the problem is I got this not turned enough. There we go. And there we are. All right, so pointer to number 1. We can put the cap back on it, get it locked down. When the distributor lockdown comes, we can put it in. But all right, we got the Jeep moving under its own power. Got a 1/2 horsepower here. Unfortunately, we're waiting on parts, and that means that this video is done for the week. Not much more I can do right now. I can make up or at least order all the proper fittings for the power steering. I can order up all of the exhaust stuff, but that's all that's going to do is get more parts on their way. So next week's video, we're going to get into the Tickle Pickle. Tickle Pickle is my entry into the Rat Rod Magazine 2024 build-off. For that, I'm using a S10 truck frame. I'm using the Jeepster body, which we had in last week's video. We've got a V8, we got a turbo 350, an AAM 11.5 rear axle. Front suspension is going to be the S10 on a 2-wheel drive. We still have some tire choices to make, and obviously we've got to figure out suspension, steering, all of those things. Some of it's simple, some of it's not. We're going to get into that next week. So with that, if you would like, subscribe, comment, anything you can do to help me get this channel going, I'd greatly appreciate it. But for now, we're going to sign off and see you next week.